I enjoy going to work every day. Why would I sell? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't personally. But I don't hold it against the people that do. I'm just going to recruit your guys. That's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to grow quicker because of it. So,
Sure.
But basically you just email Google and you say, hey, I'm missing reviews. And Google will email you back and say, nope, you're fine. And then you just have to say, hey, thank you, but this didn't solve my issue. Like, how can we resolve this and how can I get my reviews back? And you want to be super respectful, and they'll send you back another email saying that they're escalating it because they're just responding to you with AI.
Hello, friends. I'm Adam Loveridge. Welcome to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition. I'm the owner and founder of Job Calls. We're a home services marketing agency specializing in heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and remodeling contractors. For more information about Job Calls, visit us online at www.jobcalls.com.
Hello, and welcome to the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition. I'm Adam Loveridge with Job Calls, and today I'm really excited to be joined by Court Lundberg from Rare Breed Plumbing, just right down the road from me here in Utah. Court, how are you today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. So I guess starting out here, we're going to be kind of talking about marketing and growth and all sorts of fun things, but maybe just first of all, for our listeners, tell me about your story. How did you get started here at Rare Breed? How long have you guys been in business? Trucks on the road, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. So here in Utah, door-to-door sales is a big thing. And that's what I was doing as I was going to school for engineering. Really liked engineering. I liked tinkering with stuff, working with my hands, figuring out problems. And then I got married and quickly realized that I didn't want to do the door-to-door thing and be married. So rather than go into crippling student loan debt, my wife was more sold on becoming a nurse than I was on becoming an engineer. And I got a part-time job plumbing. My dad, he wanted me to be a plumber for years. And I had this stigmatism of, I don't want to be that guy. They don't make any money. I don't want to be the guy with the butt crack hanging out. Like, that's the stereotypical plumber is what I thought plumbing was.
Sure.
And so I always told him no, but when I needed a part-time job, I got one as a plumber and I loved it immediately. I loved working with customers every day. I loved going and having a new problem to solve. So there's the social aspect of working one-on-one with people. And then there was the detective work. And I loved it. I dropped out of school and I've been a plumber ever since. Got my journeyman and then my master's, and then started Lundberg Plumbing, and we just rebranded in February to Rare Breed Plumbing. So it's been a fun road. And,
excellent. And when did you start Lundberg Plumbing?
January of 2019. So
okay.
Yeah, been on my own for about 6 years now.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
that's awesome. And how many trucks do you have on the road?
We got 12 on the road right now.
Okay. And are you just in plumbing, or do you plumbing, HVAC, electric, any?
Just plumbing.
Just plumbing. Okay.
Just plumbing.
Fantastic. And what is how far out is your service area here in Utah?
Yeah, so we do from Ogden all the way to Santa Quin. So we like to drive a lot.
So really the whole Wasatch Front, huh?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to you. Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What would you say is your unique selling proposition, or what is it that makes, Rare Breed Plumbing a rare breed?
Yeah.
Especially to your customers.
Yeah. So especially nowadays, like, it sounds bad to say, but really to be an exceptional contractor, you need to answer your phone and you just need to be honest when you show up, and we think that that's such the bottom of the barrel, but really it is getting back to the basics. It's the blocking and tackling. It's doing the basics correctly that will set you apart as such a rare company. And that's really what we've emphasized with our guys. It's what we emphasize with our customers. We get so many calls from people. Oh, I called so-and-so, but they never got back to me. So perfect. That's where we come in. So we're just focused on the blocking and tackling a little bit more, just the basics. And that's really set us apart as contractors right now.
Okay. So if I'm hearing you right, it's really all about consistency then.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to show up with the crumble cookies. Although it's nice, but all this crazy stuff is getting in the way of you just doing a really good job the first time.
And have you seen that out there where other plumbers are showing up with gifts and trying to buy their way into the hearts and minds of their customers?
Absolutely. I mean, you see people, everybody's looking for a silver bullet, right? There must be something that I'm doing catastrophically wrong. We got to change it. We got to get this new system, whether it's the AI assisted sales stuff. And it's like, maybe you just need to go back to the basics, right? For most companies, I think.
Well, I think too that in my experience doing local marketing for the last 20 years and 14 years as a business, or as an agency, the thing that I found is that the way that it works is that when people need a plumber, when people need, an emergency solution or anything along those lines, they are literally going to go down the list until they can talk to somebody who can get out there, ideally same day.
Yep.
Or as soon as humanly possible. Right. And so if you're not answering the phone because you're too busy working on a system, as an example, that seems to be where I think a lot of contractors really struggle, especially early on, is that they're trying to be, the business owner, the plumber, the financial person,
Yeah. They're wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, 100%. On that front, how long did it take you to get, obviously you've only been around for about 5 years. Are you still in a truck?
Nope.
Yeah. So how long did it take you to get out of the truck, and what did that process look like for you?
Hiring a great GM. That was the process. I brought on Maddie, who's our GM, and she came on almost exactly a year ago. And since she came on, she basically hasn't allowed me into the truck, and that's been fantastic. It's been great.
Yeah, that's it. I think I kind of refer to her as my work wife, but I have my project manager at Job Calls, Dana, who really is the one who's constantly checking me, right? Like, yeah, but Adam, this is not your highest and best use, in terms of your time and focus, and I think we need those people. Because as entrepreneurs, we're so good on the quick start. We're so good at taking an idea and turning it into action and turning it into results and turning it into something. But we rarely stop and ask ourselves, should I be doing this?
Yeah.
And that's when operations people or project management people are fantastic, because they can kind of check you a little bit and go, hey, come on, Adam.
Well, and as a plumber, like, it's so easy for me to want to get my hands on the problem and solve it myself. And, nobody grows that way, right? My plumbers don't learn. Nobody grows except for me, and I don't grow because the business remains stagnant. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, process is something that comes up for me when I hear you talk about that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm sure this is true in plumbing, but certainly is in, search engine optimization. And as far as if I'm going to sit down and put together a new process,
yeah,
it's got to be about putting together the process, right? Like if I have to dig in and figure something out, which we've had to do quite a bit lately with all of the different recent algorithm changes back in August that have just kind of thrown the search landscape into turmoil, is that, sometimes I do have to roll up my sleeves and get my hands dirty.
Yeah.
Because it's what I've been doing for a long time, and it's, it's my knowledge and expertise. But as quickly as possible, it's got to be about setting up that process, training your people on how to follow that process, and then putting checks and balances in place to make sure that quality control is high.
Yep.
But if I'm sitting there turning the screws in my own business, it's that you can't do it, right? Like Michael Gerber. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate your insights on that, Court. So talking about, your growth, I mean, in 5 years, you're up to 12 trucks.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you're doing some marketing.
Yep.
In that, what does the progression of that look like in terms of, what are you doing now, but really, where did you start, and how have you built up to where you are now?
Yeah. So, obviously just a chuck in the truck is where I started out. And a lot of it was, the home warranty stuff. A lot of it was thumbtack. A lot of it was, I moved down here. So, left my master plumber up in Cache Valley, which is a ways, and I moved down here just to start this. So no leads, no jobs, didn't know anybody, got in with the home warranty companies, and they fed me. It wasn't enough to run a business off of, but I could feed myself. Like that was the whole goal. And then just by doing that, you get the repeat customers, you make them happy. And then what I would say is after about a year, it's not hard for one guy in a truck to keep himself busy off of just word of mouth. If you're good, you know, you get a year under your belt, you can keep yourself busy off of just word of mouth. It's taken to the next level. That's a completely different ball game. It was involving a company like yourself with SEO.
Sure.
That was my first step, was SEO, even though we didn't see any, because I knew that it was the long game.
Right.
And then we introduced PPC, got an office specifically so we could start working on the GMB and LSA stuff.
Gotcha.
And then the real magic happens in kind of being the mayor of your own town and getting involved in every activity outside of that stuff as well. Because the Google stuff is, Google is God. We have to play the Google game, right?
Well, yeah, it's all about search and it's all about intent, right?
Yeah.
I know you do a lot in social media.
Yeah.
Social media is great, but people aren't actively looking for a plumber on social media.
Yeah. You could pick up somebody that's had it at the top of their mind, but it's not an emergency.
Right.
Maybe I can sell you a softener off of emotion with that. But like when you have an emergency, you're going to Google.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10.
Oh, yeah.
And so kind of being like the mayor of your own town and being the top of mind on Facebook, being the educator, being the entertainer, and showing up to the events and doing whatever you can in that aspect. I wish that I would have started that sooner because it didn't cost me anything. I wish I would have started that sooner, but you know, everybody goes to the Google because they know that's where the big dogs play, and that's where you have to end up. That's where you need to dominate. But first, you can do a lot of free stuff on Facebook.
Oh, 100%. You know, I've got a painter buddy named Splash who has literally built his entire business on Instagram, you know?
Yeah.
And had, I think, 6 other painters working under him at some point, right? Yeah. So, you know, he got in very specifically. He's a resident of Daybreak.
Yep.
And Daybreak has this really awesome online community.
Yeah.
But that's true of a lot of communities, you know? And
it's true of everywhere.
Yeah. As a resident, you can get into this stuff, but it's been really cool because I think I got introduced to you by a referral maybe 6 months ago.
Yeah.
And we're friends on LinkedIn, but I also, and probably one way or another, you were everywhere.
Yeah.
Like you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram, you're on LinkedIn. And what's impressive to me is this level of like almost vulnerability that you have and just realness in general. And if I had to guess, I would guess you probably don't have a service doing your social media for.
Not at all.
That's all you.
I did. At a time, I did.
Right.
And they'll never catch your voice. They'll never catch the brand voice. I wrote email after email. This is who we are. This is what I want, you know, and it never happened. And I said, okay, I'm bringing it in-house. And now I have a year of posts. Now it's easy for me to write a post, but I also have a year of material that I can go back and recycle through. And so it just snowballs. It becomes easier.
It really does. I mean, for me, that was a lot of what the podcast was all about. I was paying a company, it's like $2,800 a month to do LinkedIn marketing for me, right? And you know, and it was, and I have this kind of like aversion to social media in general.
Yeah.
I'm not a millennial, right? I'm definitely a Gen X. I'm 47 years old. And so, you know, the internet and, Google even didn't even come around for, till I was well out of high school and even through college. And then, and then social media wasn't until my 30s, I want to say.
Yeah.
And so I have a Facebook account and I'm on LinkedIn, but I've never really used it that well. And the thing that I found working with this particular company is exactly what you've said. They just didn't quite get my voice down.
Yeah.
And what I've realized is that I personally will probably not take the time to go out and do social media, but I can sit down like I'm doing with you right now, record a podcast, share my knowledge and experience, and then have somebody go out and they're really at that point, there's no way they can screw up my voice because it's literally me talking, that's literally me using my voice. And so I really like that. And I do pay somebody then to edit the videos and push them out to social channels, and I'm getting engagement it's a great way to go.
Yeah.
And also, it's really about kind of like what you said, where you practice at it for a minute and you do something for a year or two, and then all of a sudden you've got content that you can just recycle, reuse.
Yeah.
And you get this kind of in this habit, if you will, of doing it. And I think that's where a lot of plumbers, in my experience, frankly, go wrong, is that they want to try to outsource the social media. They try to insource, SEO too, frankly, because that's a complicated, always moving thing. And if I weren't in that business, I would not want to do it. Yeah, frankly. But yeah, it's been really impressive to me. And you really are, you show up everywhere. All roads lead back to court. And I think that that's and back to Rear Breed. And I think that's really the power of it. As far as, any other types of marketing and advertising, obviously you're all over the digital space, and I'm sure your word of mouth game is still strong. Are you doing any bigger advertising like CTV or radio, billboards, that sort of
Not
thing?
at this time. So we're on Service Titan. So we have Service Titan Marketing Pro.
Okay.
That's kind of the next thing I have my eye on, is like email, direct mailers, and then joined and linked with CTO. So the Hulu messaging and stuff like that. I just don't know how well it performs yet, but I really want to kind of double tap them that way, if that makes sense. I want the mailer to go to your home, and then I want the Amazon ad coming in afterwards, not just blanketly throwing them out.
Well, and what's neat about CTV and, and all of that too, is that you can get down to that level of targeting where
Super granular.
It's super granular, but I can literally take my customer list, reach out to them via email, reach out to them via direct mail, and then show up on their Hulu.
Yeah. And
if you want to take it a step further, you can go run a retargeting campaign on both Facebook and Google, right? And all of their shared sites, so that literally now whenever they're on the web, they're also seeing you. And I think that it's, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's got to really be all about keeping that lifetime value of every customer as high as possible.
Yeah, it's definitely that. And the one thing that kind of scares me with it, which is why I'm kind of like creeping in, is it's the same thing with social media. Like what you learn about putting stuff out on social media is, you talked about my vulnerability and stuff, like that stuff travels.
Yeah.
But me showing up, and what every ad is around here anyways, is just like, hey, call us, it's $20. Like, it's very salesy. So it's almost like, take
Get
what
free furnace if we install your AC.
Every day. And so like, I'm trying to find my voice in those messages, so that when you get a text from me, it's not, hey, call me and schedule. It's, hey, just a reminder, winter's coming. Make sure that you unhook your hose bib. Like, I want that helpful stuff. I want enough content that's not selling you. I'll be top of mind regardless.
Yeah.
But less call to action, more value added. Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
Interestingly enough, one of my now past clients, they were purchased a company called Mullen Plumbing out of Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Oldest plumbing company in the nation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who they are.
Third generation, great guys over there. But Ray Trimble, their COO, has been pretty heavily involved with the news and the media there in the Tulsa area. And so I always love it when there's somebody with a big brand that's already doing a lot of advertising in their local market that's doing really poorly in SEO, because that brand will give us a lift. And we were able to really just absolutely come in and crush it once we got their targeting set up correctly. But that's not the point. The point that I'm trying to get at very simply is that what worked best for them in TV were those educational moments.
Yes.
And literally their commercials. And I actually went out and did a filming with them last year in the late fall, where they were, doing this for TV. And then we were also doing some shorts and different things for YouTube and the digital space a lot more. But it was literally about like the hose bibs. And it was about, here's some things that you can do. One of the pieces that they did was all about detecting leaks.
Yeah.
Right. And what most people don't realize is that, you plumbers have this very sophisticated listening equipment and ways that you can run, CO2. I forget what.
Compressed nitrogen, whatnot through it. Yeah. Hydrogen. Yeah.
It's stuff that you're not going to be able to do as a homeowner. Right. Yeah. But it was those educational tips.
But even the stuff, not to cut you off, but
No, please.
but especially the stuff that the homeowner can do themselves. Like when I tell somebody, hey, to clean out your disposal, throw a bunch of ice down it, turn it on, and that ice is going to get up the gunk. Everybody that has a disposal is just like, hey, that was a super helpful tip. Now I do it all the time and attribute it back to you. And hopefully you get that stuff too. So I think some of my guys get mad at me because they're like, why are you teaching people how to flush the water heater? That's money that we could have. And it's like, no, let's get them on the big stuff.
Right.
Let's teach them how to do the small stuff and they'll realize I don't want to do this myself.
Let's just say.
Yeah.
Well, and again, it's really about, I think, thought leadership too, and putting yourself out there as a resource, because even though they may have, they may watch your DIY video that winds up on a commercial somewhere or winds up on YouTube or on your website or something along those lines. The fact of the matter is that when they have something that they don't want to do, like replace that water heater that they can no longer flush because it's just done.
Yeah.
You're going to get the call.
Yeah.
You're going to get the call.
And you already have their trust. You have their trust before you even walk through the door.
100%, and we take this for granted now. But 20 years ago, well, maybe not quite 20 years ago, but let's say at least 15, 16 years ago, when Google first started Google Maps, it was really revolutionary because you had Yelp out there and they were kind of a second thing and coming along. But what Google did was they started giving you the ability to review people or these businesses online, right? And they used to have all these studies about this as far as like you have to read, on average, a consumer is going to read about 6 to 7 reviews, and it takes at least 10 reviews to be trusted. And now when we're searching for a plumber, it's like plumbers near me, look at the star rating, hit the call button.
Yep.
And so we take it all for granted, but that trust is built into the system.
Absolutely.
And it's really about how do we take that trust and push it out there, And so Google's certainly a good way, but as you're already alluding to, there is bigger media that can be used.
Well, and any contractor. So if another contractor, for example, I have a friend who's out with surgery and he's a one-man guy in the truck. He sent me over.
I think that same friend is my client. Actually.
Yeah. Great guy. But he'll send over his clients to us, and almost because they have to use us because they're gone, we're fighting tooth and nail to get $1 out of them. Where if somebody calls us off of Google, and they made that decision to call us, it's completely different. Same job, same situation. Like we get paid more. And so, that's just how it is. Or same thing with the home warranty company.
Right.
If the client has to use you because the home warranty company sent you, you have an uphill battle to earn that customer's trust. Even though you're being just as honest with the guys in Google, you're adding just as much value. You're doing it for a cheaper price because the home warranty's doing it. And they'll still shut the door on you, and they'll go call another plumber to do the same job for the same price. And it's like, it's an uphill battle sometimes. So they got to find you on Google. That's my observation anyways.
Well, and it coming back to kind of that whole study thing, it really was about how do we lead with social proof, right?
Yeah.
And that is the thing that's inherently baked into those those customer reviews on our Google Business Profile listing. And it's what I talk about in this marketing podcast all the time.
Yeah.
Which is, hey, guys, get those reviews. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to show up everywhere.
Yeah.
But when you do show up, you're going to convert.
Yeah.
That is the key behind it. And frankly, if that weren't true, LSA would not work at all.
Correct. Yeah.
And on that note, what's your experience been with LSA?
We were killing it on LSA up until February of last year when we rebranded, and it fell off. And I don't know what happened. Like we just went through an audit because, like most plumbers, like if the calls are coming in,
right, sometimes
we're not looking too closely at it. So we just did an audit, found out that our LSA is not performing like it used to. But when it's working, it is dollar for dollar the best thing we've ever had.
Yeah.
And right now, for whatever reason, it's not working. So you got to dig into that, figure out why.
It's been really fascinating. I also do serve remodeling as a niche and own a remodeling company. And most recently, they're telling my clients that we're using LSA with that, hey, you need to resubscribe essentially for this different category.
Yeah.
Because we're spinning off kitchen and bathroom remodels as a separate, segue of general contracting, right?
Yeah.
So that way they can really just charge more.
Yeah.
Frankly, for the
Same thing. Yeah.
But with all of that said, we do LSA for our clients as well. And it is a love-hate relationship for us, because it's great that anybody can go out there, as a licensed contractor in any trade, really at this point, because they do them all and then some. Anybody can go out there and start getting leads right away from Google LSA. The problem is, though, is that until you really get some repeat history with them, you won't really start to get much in terms of volume.
Yep.
It can sometimes take a year or more to get that volume to start to come. And then for whatever reason, like you said, you change a business name, you breathe incorrectly, and all of a sudden your volume just, and that is my biggest gripe with LSA as a whole, is it's this wonderful done for you pay per call service, but it's not reliable.
Yeah.
And, ads is reliable. Right. And so
ads is reliable, like pay-per-click is what you're talking about with that. Yeah. But when everybody else is hurting, you're starting to pay more too, if that makes sense.
100%.
And that's the problem, is you really need to, us as contractors need to do a better job of having our finger on the pulse of what works and what are we allocating too much? What are we depending on too much? Because A+ Garage Doors here is a $35 million garage door company. Fantastic operation. At a point, they ran almost entirely off of LSA.
Right.
And then overnight, it got shut down because Google shut it down. Well, at $35 million, once the calls dry up, you got a lot of people's jobs on the line. And so they had to pivot, and they're a very savvy company. But just knowing that story has me spooked of am I spending too much on PPC? Could somebody outspend me on that?
Right.
Do I have to allocate more to SEO or LSA or Facebook, or where are my return customers? Where is all this coming from?
We're starting to think about, what are those broader medias that we could use, like billboards, like radio, like television, and we obviously have a big plumbing, HVAC, electrical company here in any hour that is, they're wrapping freaking UTA buses.
Oh, yeah. They have a marketing budget of probably $10 million, if not a little bit more, at least. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
put them at least $1 million a month for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And we're competing with that, and they do a great job. But on the other foot, they have to spend so much more to take 1% of the market share.
Right.
I just have to take a couple of their customers, if that makes sense. And I'm not targeting any hours customers, but the plumbing industry as a whole, how many of these private equity companies are tripping over crumbs that we can pick up? For us to gain 1% in the market share, it's way, way easier than it is for any hour to gain another percentage of market share. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and, and all the big guys here, them, Whipple, obviously Black Diamond is now owned by Any Hour.
Yeah.
But it's been fun watching them over the years too, because I knew Steve and Dan when they were still doing B&I.
Yeah.
15, 16 years ago, and now they're, that has been the name of the game, right? As everybody's rolling up into private equity. That's been the big thing. I was mentioning to you kind of why I started this podcast, because frankly, I was tired of losing, doing our job well, getting, our clients, essentially acquired or helping them to be acquired and then getting fired, for the whole thing. And so I love seeing companies like yours. They're like, we're just going to keep dogging this out and doing our thing. And you're exactly right. Right now there's a huge shakeup happening in the SEO industry.
Yeah.
And some of our bigger competitors that have 400 or 500 accounts.
Yeah.
Man, I can't even fathom how bad this is going to suck for them for years.
Yeah.
Whereas with us, we're nothing even approaching that, don't want to be. but it's still been this massive overhaul of like, okay, Google has really changed the landscape and moved more from a keyword centric, thing to their more natural language processing. It's all entity and category related. And if I'm being real about it, kind of just ties into what Wikipedia knows about the world, which is sad. And Google's really just a directory of directories anyway. You look at it like, you're seeing Angie's and Yelp and Yelp, all these different show up prominently in those organic spots. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the whole game with Google at the end of the day.
So how would you say that a contractor should audit their SEO company to know whether or not they even know about this change?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So we'll flip the interview back my way. So the first thing that I would say is to really, really pay attention to your analytics and your Google Search Console data.
Okay. And how often do you think that me as a plumber should be looking at that?
Once a month.
Once a month?
Once a month, certainly once a quarter,
Okay.
Nothing happens quickly. But what's really cool about Google Search Console, right, is it's really, you mentioned earlier that Google is God, right? When it comes to, jobs and everything else, well, Google Search Console is the direct line to God.
Okay.
Right? It's giving you it's giving you all the data that Google has on your entire thing. And the big thing that we've noticed is that since the helpful content updates that really started, I would say kind of end of 2021, but really, it's been a progressive thing. And then we had this last one happen back in August. It took about a solid 30 days to roll out. And then what we've seen since then is that where a lot of our inclines in terms of keywords and impressions and everything else have been going up, and we're now starting to see that trail off. And what Google is doing now is they're looking at the site holistically. Okay. And it used to be, and I'm sure you've probably seen this in your time, where, we go out and we create a page for, piping and repiping, right? In Bountiful. Okay. And then we got drain cleaning in Bountiful. And then we've got, plumbing services in Bountiful. And we got water heaters and, going down the line of all the services you write, right?
Yeah.
And the old logic was, now let's go ahead and replicate those same service pages.
But for Sandy.
In Sandy and then Taylorsville. And so, what Google has been saying now for some time is that, guys, we can't even crawl the whole web anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you go through, it used to be that if we're creating a 300, 400, 500 page website, it's going to rank all over the place because Google loves content and content is king, right?
Yeah.
Now they're looking at their crawl availability. They're looking at their resources. They're trying to go more green, and they're looking at the raw server capacity that it takes to crawl and index the whole web.
Yeah.
Couple into that the proliferation of AI, where we can write 1,000 pages a day of content by pushing a button. Okay. No wonder they're looking at websites differently. And so what we're seeing happen now is that they're rewarding websites that look at their entire site as a holistic approach, and they're assigning a quality score to that website based on the crawl resistance to it, based on the content on the page. And so what we're doing now, instead of going out and having a city page for repipes and drain cleaning and, and then that all gets replicated. And let's say that we're in 20 cities with 20 services, that's 400 pages of content. Okay. Well, what if instead you just took those 20 services, 20 cities, made a page for each, and then interlinked them and siloed them.
Okay.
And then all you have to do is shoot links to the top of those silos, and it's going to flow down through. And now I've taken the 400-page website to a 40-page website.
Okay.
That's easily crawlable, that's fast, it performs well on mobile and on desktop.
Yeah.
And now Google looks at that, and that's what they want to see.
Okay.
And so, if in the traditional way of doing SEO has been to try to rank for keywords, right?
Yeah.
Plumber Sandy, right?
Yeah.
Plumbing companies in Sandy, drain cleaning in Sandy, right?
Yeah.
And that's still true. And that's still why you need that Sandy page. But you don't have to create a drain cleaning Sandy, drain cleaning Taylorsville, drain cleaning Riverton, drain cleaning Bluffdale.
Yeah.
And in fact, it will harm your website more than it hurts it at this point.
Okay.
And so that Search Console will tell you that, though.
Okay. Search Console.
And the way that it will tell you that is that you can go through and actually look at your search performance, look at it, over the last 3 months, and then look at it over, say, the last 16 months. And what you'll notice is, first of all, there's the graph that kind of shows everything.
Yeah.
But if you go in and you actually start looking at the page performance, you can see Google will tell you all the keywords that it's showing that page for.
Okay.
It will tell you how many impressions that page is getting. It will tell you what the click-through rate of the impressions to the page are.
You got a YouTube video of that?
Do I have a YouTube video of it? I haven't done
That's a YouTube video, right?
It is.
I would watch that. I would watch that
the whole turn it into content just for you.
Yeah.
And send it out to my list and say, hey guys, the game has changed. This is where it's gone.
Well,
but yeah, that's what we do is we go through and we look at it. And the other thing that we look at is the page indexing. And if you're starting to see all of these crawled but not indexed pages, that's Google telling you that your content is shit and they don't care about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cause especially as when you buy an SEO company, it's like buying voodoo sometimes. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know what to ask. Right. Everybody says this is why I'm better. And what I've learned from SEO is if there was one answer that fit, it's not like mathematics. It's not 2 and 2 equals 4. It is, you're doing an art that's trying to predict what Google wants and what Google will want. And so you don't know. Yeah. But I would love to know as an owner how I can audit my SEO companies quicker in real time. And I think that's the way. I need to become more intimate with such
100%, and I actually I literally did a podcast on this a few weeks ago that I think just hit Spotify.
Yeah.
And I have a blog post that'll be hitting my website here really this week as well. And the title is, how to avoid being ripped off by marketing agencies.
Yeah.
Because it's really about knowing the points of data to look at and then how well that is being communicated back to you as a business owner, right? And so we use a lot of Search Console data. We use a lot of analytic data. Most importantly, we're tracking every damn phone call that comes into our clients' businesses.
Yeah.
Because you and I both know that it's still about whether or not the phone is ringing.
Yeah.
Now, if we're just starting out on a campaign and we need to be able to show progress, we want to see that growth in Search Console. We want to see that growth in traffic to the website through analytics. We want to see more GBP impressions, right? We want to look at rankings and all of the metrics that are going to lead up to what are ultimately going to become phone calls.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if you can't track every single phone call and where it comes from and attribute that back to a dollar amount, you're never going to know what your ROI is.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen. And coming back to the whole LSA or PPC or SEO or all this 3-letter acronym soup, is at the end of the day, how well does it ROI? And what we have seen time and time again is that, and I've done this with various companies that we've worked with, and some of them are massive 100+ truck, $100 million, type outfits, is that SEO far and away is usually going to be the biggest return on investment.
Yeah.
Specifically because you're usually paying an SEO company a retainer.
Yeah.
And so there's not a direct cost per lead beyond what that retainer is. And so as the lead base grows and the retainer does not, we see all the time 60, 70, 80 to 1 returns on investment from SEO. Okay. Google LSA, it kind of varies, but it's anywhere from about 12 to 1 to as much as 22 to 1. And I say that was true more when plumbing calls were $20, $23 a call.
Yeah.
They're now moving up to 50, or more.
Or 70.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the cost per lead is going to continue to go up because more and more people are jumping into that system.
Yep.
And that's Google's whole objective in it too, is we want to sell those leads for as much as we can sell them. So we typically see SEO perform the best, but as you've alluded to, it's this big voodoo witchcraft kind of thing that people don't understand. And so it's scary.
Yeah.
It's scary. But you also know too, that when those calls come through, they convert like mad.
Yeah.
Because they found you organically. So there's that trust there. They've read your reviews and looked at your, and they're ready to do business when they pick up the phone and call.
Yeah.
Right. So we generally see LSA performing not nearly as well as SEO, but certainly better than ads. And why I still like Google Ads is because, as we've alluded to with LSA, when LSA stops performing, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
You are up to Google's good graces to hopefully figure it out, and they won't,
Yeah. you're sending in videos of, look, my shop does exist here. And yeah, they're like, oh, we'll get back to you in 2 months. It's like, guys, I need calls now. So yeah.
I'll share this little secret and strategy with people in case they want to know, but we have helped one of the ways that we've helped our clients traditionally grow is that we'll come in and with their GBP listing, it used to be GMB. Before that, it was Google Plus Local, then Google Places and whatever. But the most recent iteration is Google Business Profile. But the point is that we go out and we expand that map and take up as much geographic area as possible. And that's something else that's changed in the last 2 years is Google has constricted that map down for a great number of companies. But once we've expanded that and taken over as much coverage as possible, then it's like, well, how do we continue to expand? And so then we just go drop more pins.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you that if you try to do that at a residential address as a plumber, as an electrician, as an HVAC contractor, even a remodeler now, you are going to go through a video verification.
Yeah.
They're going to make you prove, through your through your corporate documents that you're at that address. They're going to want to see your trucks parked out in front of your house. Whatever. But if I go drop a pin at a commercial address, it doesn't even do a postcard verification anymore.
Oh, really?
It goes right through.
Yeah.
Yep. So then the question is, well, how do you get a commercial address? And that's a topic for another day that we're not going to get into on this, but I'll tell you after the podcast. So if you'd like to know.
Yeah. That's what we need.
Yeah. It's really about expanding that service area out. So one of the big things that's of course happening in the trades right now is these massive roll-ups that we've already kind of talked about here with some of our local companies. And, what's your, I know that you went and rebranded from Lundberg Plumbing to Rare Breed Plumbing. Yeah. From the outside looking in, if I didn't know what you were trying to do, I would think that you're probably doing that to get positioned to sell so that you don't have your name attached to it. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the case. Tell me about how you feel about this whole roll up that we're seeing in the industry and what you really would like to see happen with Rare Breed Plumbing.
So I think it's fair to think that that's what we were positioning to do, if that makes sense. And that was one of my biggest concerns with rebranding was, would people think that we had sold out or anything like that? And it had nothing to do with that. It was, at the end of the day, I wanted a company that everybody in the company could hang their hat on, not just my last name, right? We're building a place where I hope that our guys their kids are proud that they work there. If that makes sense. We want somewhere that they can go in and they can really own it. And we don't know what our exit strategy is yet. We've talked about a lot of them. We've talked about potentially opening up other branches in not quite a franchise, but almost like allowing our guys to open up other branches in other places. And we thought that Rare Breed would scale better in that rather than a Lundberg Plumbing.
Sure.
Not to mention, the last name brings in a certain clientele of people that want the mom and pop. And we loved those customers. But when people want to spend real money, even us small guys, like when you're spending real money, you want the company that looks the most reputable. You want the company that looks the biggest. There's something within ourselves that feels like if we spend more on it and get the name brand Coca-Cola versus whatever else they have. I don't even drink Coca-Cola
or whatever that.
Yeah, but it's going to be a better experience. It's going to be worth it. And we are in a place in Salt Lake, especially where housing prices are sky high. And I want my guys to be able to buy a house. So we have to raise our prices. If we're going to raise our prices, I need a vehicle that is worth those prices. And from the outside, looks like it's worth those prices. But that's kind of getting away from the private equity. For me, the private equity is just a double-edged sword. For my growth personally, it has been the best thing that's ever happened to us. And the reason why is these companies come in and buy up these companies with great name brands and reviews and infrastructure. And then they shake everything inside of there. They squeeze the technicians for every last drop. And so I'll give a little bit of a recruiting tip. When I feel that turbulence going on in the market, I sent out a bunch of LinkedIn messages. So there's a company here, and the parent company is called Prestige Holdings. So I'll message the people. I'll be like, hey, like, how is it over at Prestige Holdings? I don't even use their company name. I let them know, like, you don't work for that company anymore. That company's dead.
You work for the conglomerate.
You work for the man now. And how bad does that suck? Like, when you want that feeling of a family-owned company that you loved about this company 5 years ago, we're hiring. And we got great people from that. My GM came from cold messages on LinkedIn, just like that. And so from a recruiting standpoint, we have had the pick of the best talent because they hate that model. And the number twos come up as well. The number one positions, their CMOs, you know, their lead dispatchers, they're secured, but that number two position knows there's nowhere for me to grow right now.
Right.
I didn't get paid with this last buyout. I won't get paid with the next buyout. I'm going to go start something, you know, I want to go somewhere where I'm appreciated. So on that end, there's a lot of talent on the market. What I really don't like is that the consumer doesn't know that their money's going to California or to Texas or to Florida or to Canada.
Right.
There's no transparency there, that when you call such and such plumbing, another company might show up and they're under the same umbrella. So basically what's happening with private equity is it's a roll up to create the biggest ball on the same P&L so that they can sell for the biggest multiple or potentially IPO, right? The real race is who can IPO. What's really going to happen though is most are going to sell to one conglomerate. There's going to be one leader at the end of this in 10 years. Yeah. And everybody else is going to, second place isn't going to get anything. They're going to get paid a little bit, but
right.
I'm not interested in that game. I'm just not. I enjoy what I'm doing. I enjoy building this. And if you were to give me $10 million tomorrow, I would go back to plumbing the next day. And so what's the point of it? Like,
right.
I can build this to make good money for me and my family right this second and be perfectly happy with that. So I don't know what we'll do, but I'm young. I don't know what the exit strategy is, and I'm okay not having one. I'm okay enjoying this right this second, you know?
Yeah.
But we are building it to be profitable. We're building it so that I talk to a lot of owners that are $10 million companies and they're still not paying themselves what they should. I'm not paying myself what I should, but I got a better vision of it.
Right.
But if I was at 10 million and, you know, making less than everybody at the company, I'd be a little bit ticked off too. I'd probably sell.
Yeah. You know, I'll tell you what I know now is that I'd probably implement profit first. I don't know. Yeah. If you're familiar with that book, you know, Mike Michalowicz, I think is his last name. But the reality is that, you know, as revenue increases, Parkinson's law states that so too expenses are going to increase. You know? And it just like SEO, it's a constant refinement to eke out those little bit of margins, you know?
Yeah. So if we can save 1% here and 1% there, and, you know, if our people are happy and if this is a culture that I enjoy going to work every day, why would I sell? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't personally. But I don't hold it against the people that do. I'm just going to recruit your guys. That's what I'm going to do. You know, I'm going to grow quicker because of it. So
sure,
I'm happy about it.
Well, and then they bring their own, you know, their own really book of business too, because that word of mouth is such a big,
absolutely.
You know, and you know, that's why these technicians that do as well as they do, because, you know, they provide quality service and they're very plugged in with their customer base and they've got raving fans, you know.
Yes.
So they bring that with them. You know, one of the things that kind of keeps coming up as a question for me as I'm listening to you talk, and maybe we can kind of end on this, but you know, what's your why?
Oh yeah. So that's, so there's the spiritual side of it as well. So I served an LDS mission. So my religious background is I'm Mormon. And I loved that. I loved serving mission. It changed my life. It taught me how to communicate with people. It was just a good experience for me overall.
Sure.
To move away and to get out of a box of, this is the box that everybody kept me in high school, if that makes sense. And so my big why is that I would love to become a mission president. And the reason why I want to do that is I want to be a builder of people. And that's really like, good grief. So I'm an emotional guy. So just so everybody knows, but like, I want to build people. I want to change people's life for good. And plumbing has done that for me in a very real way. It's provided for my family. It's helped me buy a home. I will never be broke again. Like, even if Rare Breed failed, which is always a possibility. If Rare Breed went under and I went bankrupt, which is what would have to happen for Rare Breed to fail, I can go get a job with these skills anywhere in the United States and do just fine. Like, I am secure enough with my talents that I know that there's nowhere I could go at this point and not be taken care of. So like, and I want to build that into other people. I want other people to take almost like what Mike Rowe did for Dirty Jobs. Like, I want to do that for the plumbing industry, which is kind of a crazy thing, but that's like my crazy why. I want to be a builder of people. And so when the money doesn't come too, it's all right. Like, I'm not scared about it. If my guys are happy, when my guys are sending me, hey, like, we're having a kid, and it's like, okay, you feel secure enough with this to do that. Like, that's pretty big for me.
That's awesome.
I'm just a big crybaby without all that. So,
man, I get all of that too. And it is all about having a why. And, and I resonate very deeply with the spiritual side of that, which I very much experienced through people. I wound up in a different, way, but it is a huge part of my life, and it's why I do what I do as well. And, is there anything else that's coming up for you as a burning desire that you'd like to share here before we wind up our bod? Maybe any advice that you'd give, say a plumber that's still starting out or has a couple trucks
I'll give two pieces of advice. One, to the plumber that's just in a truck, like, it's so scary to hire that first hire, and everybody else is telling you why you shouldn't. It's a headache to hire. You're going to deal with other problems. You're just going to deal with different problems. So if somebody hasn't hired people, or if they're not where you want to go, don't take advice from them. Because I held off on hiring for a long time, taking advice from people that were not where I wanted to go, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, and this, because this is a marketing podcast, is just this last year, we got 75 reviews back from Google. Google is taking down your reviews. And the reason why we were able to find it out is anytime we got a review, I would screenshot it, because we would pay our guys out on reviews. And so we put it up on a big PowerPoint. And then we were going through it, and I was like, hey, I paid out for 12 reviews this week. Why did we only go up by 10? Yeah, or 6 or whatnot. So we would go back through the videos, but I found the things, but there's a blog post that I can send out, but basically you just email Google and you say, hey, I'm missing reviews. And Google will email you back and say, nope, you're fine. And then you just have to say, hey, thank you, but this didn't solve my issue. Like, how can we resolve this, and how can I get my reviews back? And you want to be super respectful, and they'll send you back another email saying that they're escalating it, because they're just responding to you with AI. Nobody's actually looking at this.
No, there's not customer service at Google.
Yeah. So
there's like a handful of people in the Philippines that are doing it all.
Exactly. So you just let them know very politely, like, hey, this didn't resolve my concerns, and they'll elevate it. And they gave us back 75 reviews, and it was like Christmas morning, like, best thing I've ever done. Now we do it every 6 months. Now we do not get the full 75 back, but so I'm going back to taking pictures of everything so I can send them over documentation of, I know that I'm missing, John Doe and Jane Doe, and I'm missing all these reviews, but that's what we're doing just every time a review comes in. So
it's not just about auditing leads and auditing where SEO performance and all these other things, but you've got to actually get granular with the reviews now too.
Yeah, I don't see get throttled. I want to dominate. And so don't go throttle them. I want to dominate. I'm not about it.
Awesome. So, well, Court, this has been a wonderful interview, my friend, and I appreciate you so much for coming on with me. And this was just absolutely fantastic. And I hope that you're taking as much out of this as I am. Again, I'm Adam Loveridge with Job Calls, joined here with Court Lundberg from Rare Breed Plumbing. This has been the Home Services Marketing Podcast, Growth to Acquisition, and I look forward to catching you on the next episode.